So thank you very much for having me along this afternoon. My name is Michael. I'm the Regional Energy Projects Manager. I lead the Midland Energy Hub. Nottingham City Council is our accountable body. I'll take you on the talk today from the work that Nottingham City Council are doing, and I'll take it up to the work that's happening at a county and regional level as well. There's a lot of information here. I put a bit of extra information in the slides with links. So when the slides are shared afterwards, you can explore some of that information in a bit more detail if you would like. So as I mentioned, fully funded by BEIS, the role of the hub is to support the capacity of LEPs and local authorities to identify and deliver local energy strategies and projects, and addressing the capacity gap that we know existed for them to be able to deliver on this work, alongside improving regional and national communication channels. With the 9 LEPs I showed on the previous slide, we've got a project officer based in each one, who are working closely with those LEPs and local authorities to do the development work. We also manage something called the Rural Community Energy Fund, which provides grants to community groups for energy project development. We're managing the Green Homes Grant Local Authority Delivery Phase 2 across the Midlands, which is a regional retrofit programme funded through BEIS. And we're also managing the Green Homes Grant Skills Training Programme, which is an England-wide initiative to upskill the supply chain to work on the Green Homes Grant voucher scheme. Thank you. Next slide, please. So a local approach to energy. This is really, really important, as local authorities and LEPs are key actors in facilitating the transformation of our energy system, as we've just heard about. And why does it matter? It helps with business retention, helps with productivity, economic growth, health, cross-sector cost reduction, and meeting carbon emissions reduction targets. With the Midlands Energy Hub, our local project officers provide that local presence and resource at that grassroots level. And Nottingham City Council act as the accountable body for the Midlands Energy Hub, although the team are spread out fully across the Midlands and embedded with LEPs and local authorities across the area. This provides a brilliant opportunity to build on Nottingham's success in this area and to help support other organisations. Next slide, please. So what have Nottingham done? Well, last year, on the 13th of January, they launched their carbon neutral charter for 2028 and their consultation for the 2028 action plan, which has now been completed. The link is there for you to actually go and read it. But I just want to pick out the important thing here is the fact that they've got the review, progress and actions. There's going to be an awful lot of change between now and 2028, and to be able to regularly review and assess progress and what actions need to be done and what actions need to be changed is really, really important. The other critical element here as well is the fact that Nottingham have engaged with their citizens and businesses and got their feedback in the development of the charter and the action plan. Next slide, please. So with the charter, you can see on the graph to the left of your screen that it's a real challenge to really drive down those emissions. And what's important with this is that we build up partnerships with other organisations. This is not something we're trying to do on our own. We're only responsible as a council for a small portion of those emissions. We've got to work in partnership with citizens and our other local organisations to make such a challenging difference. Next slide, please. So following on from that, the Carbon Neutral Nottingham 2020 to 2028 action plan was developed. We've got key themes running throughout. And a big part of this, as mentioned, was that public consultation. It's really important to us that we get our citizens on board and we listen to how they think the future of the city can be shaped as we drive towards this ambitious target. Again, if you would like to see how we pull this together, I've put the link there. We appreciate it's really ambitious, but we don't have time to set targets way off in the future. There's a real need to act now, and therefore there's a need to set these ambitious targets to really drive progress. Next slide, please. A few examples of Nottingham in action. Solar PV, retrofitted to over 4,000 properties across the city. Energy Sprung, deep retrofit. The ones you can see in the picture there were the first number of properties to have been done. This programme is now rolling out. So it started with about 10 properties, is now going over to over 200 properties and a school as well. So really exciting to take it into a bigger building. We're developing the really innovative vehicle to grid. So our electric fleet are expanding. We've got solar at the depot where we're looking at doing this. So we're generating the energy on site. And the idea is the vehicles often come back and are plugged in at about 4 o'clock. And that's when you're getting an increase in demand on the grid. So it's great to use the reserve in the batteries of the vehicles, sell that to the grid, and then charge when there's less demand later on at night. So a great opportunity to help decarbonise the grid and also to generate revenue. Of course, there's the district heating. We've got one of the oldest district heating systems in the country, powering about 5,000 homes and over 100 businesses. Next slide, please. So just to take that to a county level, now I mentioned collaboration and working in partnership, and local authorities working together can achieve more. So with the Nottinghamshire local authorities, I'm helping to facilitate a working group that's chaired and championed by the Chief Exec of Rushcliffe Borough Council. Through that group, we've done a number of actions. I've pulled out a few key ones here. Decarbonisation of leisure centres. So we've looked at the suitability of PV across 22 of the sites. The planning officer group then went away and put together an SPD for low carbon supplementary planning documents. We're looking at decarbonisation of transport, and these are just a few. What we felt was really important is that by coming together at a senior management level, we can identify how we can actually work collectively to support each other through this journey. It's not about competition, it's about identifying strengths and weaknesses, and where one local authority is doing really well, how can they help others? You know, it's about sharing resources and moving forward, because energy and the environment doesn't respect local authority boundaries. And of course, we've got the LEP energy strategy that sits above it all that we're working to support, as well as everybody's own climate emergencies that have been declared. The Hub has also been supporting the East Midlands Councils and LGA on a workshop series. And again, fantastic opportunity to collaborate across community energy, transport, energy and housing, and green economic recovery and behavioural change that have formed the themes for those workshops. Thank you. Next slide. So Rural Community Energy Fund, community engagement is absolutely key. Communities understand what they need. And through the fund we've got, we're able to help these communities develop projects in their rural areas. So an example, Cromford Mill up in Derbyshire, looking at bringing hydro back to the site. It had hydro 250 years ago, albeit not hydroelectric, but it's great to get that site back and powered by renewable energy again. Positive activities up in Lincolnshire, looking at micro anaerobic digestion. And Harbury Ewell's a community group that are using wind, solar and storage to power local EV minibuses that take community members to things like hospital appointments and the like. And recently, CSE, with support from the Energy Hub, have launched their Parish Council Carbon Calculator. I'll put the link there. For your parish councils, really recommend they have a look at it. Really easy to use and really impactful. Thank you. Next slide. In terms of some of the projects we've funded, this public-private joint venture and partnerships for investment in and delivery of energy schemes. I've sent that over to the event organisers and happy for that to be shared afterwards. Again, we've got to work in partnership with the private sector on some of these projects. So this is a really, really good way for, if you've not embarked on it before, setting out what you need to start considering. We've developed a financial model for energy projects looking at wind, hydro and solar. That we're just waiting on the legal sign-off before that can be utilised by the local authorities, but that will be available through the Hub soon. And we also have worked with Coventry on the low carbon transport hub work. There's a link further on in the presentation that you can use to access it, where we did a strategic overview of the Midlands to identify suitable sites, and this work's available for all and is easy to replicate as well. And we've got in progress with Nottingham D2 grids, looking at mine water heat to heat homes, working with the North East region on a mine water heat white paper, part funded through the hubs, and a low carbon environmental goods and service sector report, which I'll touch on in more detail in a moment, and something called on-gen and on-efficiency. So we've got 100 licenses we'll be funding to identify what needs to be done on large buildings to make them more efficient or more suitable for renewable generation. And it's essentially a piece of software that spits out a business that says, yes, invest your time and money into this, or no, think of something else, to put it simply. So we'll be replicating that across the Midlands in the coming months. Next slide, please. Mention the public-private joint venture there. So just a little bit more detail for you. It involves information on how to secure the project investment, how to enable the development of the project, enhance and accelerate the delivery of a wide range of energy infrastructure projects, and how to integrate the energy projects, looking at generation, grid constraints, mobility, heat, and digital solutions. Thank you. Next slide. That I just mentioned on the project summary there. So the low carbon and environmental goods and service sector report we've conducted for the whole of the Midlands. Again, this is replicable for the other regions. It was commissioned in November 2020. The work has just been completed. We're just reviewing it now before we make it public. The aim of the work was to define and understand the sector, where support is needed to help grow it across the Midlands from a local authority level, a LEP level and a regional level, and understand the role the sector has to play in the low carbon recovery from COVID-19, and also to quantify it. So for the Midlands, the value of the sector is over 26 billion. And I know for the LEP I'm responsible for, the LEP area I'm responsible for, it's worth 5.3 billion. And it's really impactful being able to put clear figures to that and identify which subsectors are adding value and have a scalable and can really benefit the GVA of the region should they be invested further in. I've put some links on there as well that you can look at some of the initial outputs from the work. And again, the full report will be available end of March, early April. Thank you. Next slide, please.
Michael, 1 minute, please.
Thank you. If we can just hop on to the next slide. There we go. And then just to finish off on the low carbon transport hubs, the idea came from Coventry City Council. I've been working with Cenex on this concept, and the Midlands Energy Hub helped to fund this project and to take it Midlands wide. So we followed the process there where we looked at a shortlist criteria for all the sites, built that long list, and then supported that long list to be condensed to a shortlist and then refine the report. So we go on to the next slide, please. So this is the methodology that we used. Again, this is very much replicable in other areas. And importantly, Coventry City Council used the dark blue for their particular site they've been looking at. And then we expanded that because there needs to be a degree of flexibility as we look at this challenge across the region on how we support the transport sector, which is so key to the Midlands economy, to transition to low carbon fleets. So again, I think what's great about this work is it sets out our ambitions and other areas can replicate it really, really easily. Thank you. Next slide, please. So there's the project link to that report. That's the last slide. I've done a bit of a whistle-stop tour throughout a whole range of work. But if anybody does have any further questions, please do feel free to drop me a link. And my email is on the last slide, if you could click through to it, please. Thank you very much for listening today, and I hope you found it useful.